Hi, welcome to Numbers Don't Lie, Marketing Insights for Accountants. I'm Brad Pinzer.
And I'm Janelle Sikora. Welcome to another episode. We're talking about a really fun subject today, Brad. We are
Yes,
talking about handling objections. This is something we get asked about a ton from firms. And I would say, without exception, the number one objection every firm gets is the price objection, right? And I think that that's something fairly universal across professional services in general. I don't think that's necessarily unique to accounting firms. However, I know you recently had an experience with this. So I wanted to start out by asking if you could just tell your story as a relatable experience.
sure. So I have several websites that I've kind of inherited through a client. Long story, but these websites, I'm sorry, the hosting of these websites were sold to these clients that for not a lot of money, um, and just hosting. There was really no maintenance or anything to take care of these websites. So invariably, things happen, and I have to come in and fix them. And we offer our clients, we offer what we call a website care plan. So this is just more
Mhm.
involved where we take care of the website and we do maintenance and all kinds of stuff. And so this gentleman had a problem where his form wasn't sending him the email and he had some different issues. And I basically spoke to him about our website care plan. And the website care plan that I was selling to him was, you know, 200% more than what he was paying. So significant, still like not a lot of money, but relative to what he was paying, it was significant. And he had a lot of questions. And I basically, the reason why I was able to sell it to him was I had a tremendous amount of confidence because I knew that he wasn't paying for a service that he needed, that I knew he needed, and he kind of knew he needed, and maybe he didn't want to pay for it, but it was, something that we both know was needed, and it was a solution to his problem. And so I had a whole bunch of confidence there.
Mhm.
Um, and so I also, in addition to having confidence, the confidence to go in there and be able to say, listen, this is what you need. You have to have it. And the thing also during this conversation with this gentleman was I was also able to invoke a little fear into the sale, which is really important. And it was legitimate fear, it wasn't fabricated. And it was basically the fear was that if you don't take care of your website, especially if you have a WordPress website, it's open source software, which needs to constantly be updated, and there's plugins that need to be updated, uh, you're susceptible to malware, right? And different things like that. So that's a real possibility. There's real fear. No one wants to have malware. So I was able to use that as part of the sales process. If you don't do this, this is what could happen to you, right? It's
Mhm.
just like sales 101. And then the other aspect of it was I was also providing tremendous amount of value
Mhm.
because he had this problem. His website wasn't really working properly, and he also from time to time did very minor maintenance, needed to change a price or something like that. Very simple stuff. And so I was able to explain to him that he would not only solve his problem and get that fixed, he would also prevent, that possibility of getting the malware. Plus, I was delivering a whole bunch of other value, which was, included in that price was this light maintenance, so he wouldn't have to pay each time he, wanted to make some
Mhm.
small update. There was also uh, backups to his website. It would be proactively the software was
Mhm.
updated, things like that. So there was all this other value that I was adding into it. So those three things together is really what on the phone I was able to get him to
Mhm.
agree to this upgrade. I didn't have to like send him a proposal. I didn't have to do all this other stuff. So
Right.
then, you know, if you can get them to agree on the phone, and they do need something after that, you can always say, well, this is what we talked about. Here it is.
Yeah.
And then you just sign it instead of having to go through a
Mhm.
whole nother process. But those are the three like main things is, having
Confidence,
that confidence,
value, and then just letting them
value.
know what could happen if they don't move forward. But I think it all kind of comes down to when you present something and it's substantially higher than what the prospect was expecting, they're going to get sticker shock, and you have to be able to guide them through that, right? And I think that it also goes back to the process, your whole sales process before the conversation, especially when it's a larger sale. I love this example because it was substantially higher than what the client expected, but it was a smaller sale, so easy to just get this done over the phone. Sometimes with accounting firms who are selling outsourced CFO services or outsourced controller services, it's a substantial monthly amount that they're trying to get these clients to commit to. And a lot of times this is from clients who are used to paying, I don't know, $300-400 a month for bookkeeping. And now they're trying to increase their price to do outsourced CFO services. So when they present a proposal and it's $1,500 a month, the client's naturally going to have sticker shock. But what I think is really important as a career long salesperson, you've got to start early in the process. So first, really understanding what the client's goals are and understanding why are they coming to you in the first place? What do they want? What do they want in terms of what is success going to look like for them? What results do they want to get? Right. And then you have to also understand, okay, what are their pain points? And you have to dig deep and be able to get all those pain points. And then you have to be able to understand, and set expectations correctly. Let them know up front, here's what you're getting today. This is why you have this pain. This is where you want to get to. This is what you want. If you were to pay me $1,500 a month for outsourced CFO services, for example, and you were to free up your time to focus on the core activities of your business, and if you were to have all of this data at your fingertips to where you never wondered if you could hire someone, you never wondered if it made sense to purchase this piece of equipment or invest in this conference or make a purchase, you never wondered if or when you should do that, would that be, what would that mean to you? So I think you have to have those conversations early on and set the expectations that this is not going to be inexpensive, and then get their agreement along the way. Would you agree that even though this, what we're talking about is going to be more than what you're paying today, how do you feel about that? What do you see as the optimal result here? And then use that result as your ROI if you can deliver that, right?
Yeah, and also there's something that I left out of what I just said that I just remember now is you really have to set the context for this conversation. So when I was speaking to this gentleman, the problem was that he was sold something and believed that he was getting something for what he was originally sold. And what he was sold, um he wasn't sold the right solution in the beginning, right? So he was using like this other vendor, let's say. So it could be another account, right? A small business
Mhm.
goes to a different accountant or bookkeeper, whatever, doesn't sell them the right solution. So now they're coming to you because they don't have the right solution, right? So you have
Mhm.
to talk about that previous sale and what happened there and why that was inadequate for what you
Mhm.
need. And so like the whole pricing and all that stuff that's in their head, uh, you have to kind of debunk that, right? And say, that's why it cost you another, 100% more, 200% more than what you were paying because that was completely inadequate. And so I was able to do that in this conversation. The simple,
Yeah.
simple scenario was, I was like, listen, The reason why I'm having problems is because what you bought doesn't deliver what you're needing. And so, that kind of set the context for everything that followed,
Right.
you
I
know?
agree with you. And I think it does kind of come back to two things. That's confidence and value. But I want to talk about value for a minute because I saw a firm not too terribly long ago that had a vetting question on their questionnaire on their website. I just went through it to see what it looked like. And one of them was, would you be willing to spend at least X amount of dollars per month? I actually think it was like between $1,000 and $3,000 a month to work with us. And if the answer was no, they were, referred elsewhere. If the answer was yes, they moved into a sales conversation. I would be willing to bet that there are very few people that go into that sales conversation with that question, because it's very hard to ask a business owner, would you be willing to spend this, without having any idea what you're going to get for it. You have to, as an accounting firm owner, you have to be able to communicate value. You don't just jump to, would you be willing to spend this? Because no business owner in their right mind is going to say yes to that without knowing what they're getting for that. So I think what's really important, and I always tell accountants, never give away anything for free. Your expertise and your knowledge and your experience is way too valuable to be giving away for free. But understand your value and then be confident in that value and be able to communicate that value. And that's why it's so important in those initial conversations that you have with prospective clients. First thing you need to ask them is, what are your goals? Where do you want to be? What do you want to achieve in the next 12 months? What does that look like to you? If you could achieve something in the next 12 months, um, what is your idea of a perfect accounting firm? What would you expect from me? And listen very carefully. And if that's something that you can deliver on and even go a little bit beyond that, then you absolutely can overcome the pricing objection every single time, without a doubt. If the person is looking for a transaction, then you're not going to be able to overcome the pricing objection. And then I would ask, do you even want that client? Are you really looking for a transactional client, someone who all they really care about is a commodity? I would venture to say that most of the firms we work with want clients who see them as an investment and not an expense. And when you make an investment, you get something back for it and you get a lot of value in your investment. When it's just an expense to the bottom line, kind of that necessary evil, like, some of us might look at, I don't know, auto insurance or homeowners insurance, kind of like that. You have to pay for it. It's one of those things you have to have, but it's a commodity. But when you're an accountant and you're looking at a monthly service that you're providing and you're selling your expertise and your experience and your knowledge, that's not a commodity. That's a relationship. And that is something that is high value that you should be very confident in selling and never discounting.
Yeah, and I think that when you go through that process and you really think about what it is that you do and you offer, and it just gives you more and more confidence. It feeds on itself.
My dogs have a lot of
Is
confidence
that?
right now. Can you
Yeah,
tell?
they do. They do their own thing. That's
They're
great.
very confident in the sound of their voice that it's going to scare off the
The
beeping sound
mailman
coming
or
out of my
something.
kitchen. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, Amazon.
yeah,
Yeah,
gotcha.
Amazon doesn't
Yeah.
come here.
So
Yeah,
no, it doesn't either. It
yeah,
doesn't come here. Yeah,
right.
they don't. Yeah, they just skip
Well,
my house. No,
yeah.
I wish.
But, I'll tell you this story. This is this crazy sales story. So when I was prior to starting my own business, and I worked for a firm that was a large, very large firm, and I was selling tax and accounting software, audit software, workflow software, practice management software, and there was such a powerful story around this specific line of software that I was selling. And I believed in it, like to my core. Now, as a career long salesperson, I will tell you, I can't sell something that I don't believe in.
Mhm.
And I've left companies because I'm like, I can't sell this stuff. I can't lie. I'm not going to try and convince someone to purchase this if I don't really believe in it. So anyhow, this particular company, I just really believed in this story. I was passionate about it, so passionate about it that I loved being able to sit down with a firm, ask them all the right questions. And then in my mind, when I qualified them as this is the perfect fit, they need this software solution, I would get up, and I always carried whiteboard markers with me. And there's a whiteboard in every conference room, right? So I would always ask, can I use your whiteboard? And I would whip out my markers, and they're like, sure. And I would literally start drawing. This is what it looks like for you today. Here are all of your individual silos or whatever. And then this is what it will look like for you when you implement my solution. And here is how it's going to work step by step. And I would line this whole thing out on a whiteboard. I worked for a super amazing person who I saw her do it, and she had people eating out of her hand. So I thought, I'm going to do this too. But the craziest thing was, I'm in this meeting, I was with a firm, and it was just magical. That you could have heard a pin drop in there. By the end of this sales call, they're like, absolutely, we want to do this. It was literally a one call close, and it was an enormous sale for me, one of the hugest, that got me to a huge milestone that year. And it was, when I reflect back on that and I think about that often, I think what did it for me was my passion and my confidence. And the fact that I believed in what I was selling them and telling them with every, ounce of my being. And it worked out beautifully, worked out great. And, it was a lot of work getting them through the implementation process, because it always is in a very large software sale. But it does come down to confidence and believing in what you're selling. So firm owners, if you don't believe in your own value or your own expertise, I think that's where you have to start. And if you have accountants working for you in your firm that don't buy in, that they don't really believe in the value they're providing, that's where it all has to start. You have to be able to, Brad, you and I talk about messaging all the time, right? You have to be able to weave the story and be able to convince your accountants and convince all the people in your firm of the value that you're providing these clients and how you're helping them. And once you really believe that, then your confidence is there, and you will very naturally be able to overcome the pricing objection anytime.
Absolutely. And I mean, all of our clients, they have the passion,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And it's just really, just building upon that confidence. And I think there's so many ways to do it. It's not just always like the confidence in your ability to do like the accounting work that's required, but it's also the whole experience of working with your firm, right? Like the whole, like the
Mm-hmm.
onboarding and all the communication, the confidence in that process,
Yep.
I think adds to your confidence when you're selling, because it says, if you're confident that the whole entire process of the engagement with your firm is so good, if all the pieces of that are solid, it just gives you incredible amount of confidence
Mm-hmm.
beyond just the delivering of the expertise and that, what they're
Mm-hmm.
ultimately looking for their business,
Right. Right.
you know.
And I think a lot of times accountants are just a little nervous about having that pricing conversation, because I don't know if um, it's just sometimes an uncomfortable and a tough conversation. Often it's kind of like many accountants are very hesitant to ask for Google reviews too. I think they are such problem solvers and such humble experts that it's difficult for them to talk about anything that might be asking something of someone else, like asking someone to be okay with their pricing or asking for a good Google review. I think as a business owner, you have to get over that, and you have to almost double down and look at people as if, why wouldn't you want this type of value brought to your business? I mean, price aside, why would you not want this type of value brought to your business?
Absolutely. And also, just because you mentioned the review thing, I think, another way to look at it that people don't really maybe don't look at it is that it's like, wouldn't you want like other people to know about like if you're my client and I did such a great job, wouldn't you want other people to know about me so that they could also be helped? It's not
Hmm.
just about me getting the review for what I've done. It's more
Right.
about putting it out there so that other people can receive that same benefit. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Hmm.
So it's kind of like passing it
Absolutely.
along.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's all the confidence because all of that is connected. It's
Hmm.
all
Exactly.
connected because the more that you do that, the more you'll have confidence to ask for that review, which feeds all the other stuff. It's all really, really
Yep.
important.
So to kind of wrap it up, I want to just recap something and make a strong recommendation. Before you can overcome the number one objection of price, you have to start in with the prospecting conversation, with that initial discovery call or consultation, whatever you call it. You have to start by really understanding what the customer's goals are. If they come into the conversation and you're trying to understand why they're looking for another accountant, and their answer is, well, I don't know, mine's okay, but I just thought I'd see what's out there. You've got to dig way deeper than that. Very, very few times are people going to say that, but you've got to understand why they're there and what are their goals? What do they want their life or their business to look like 12 months from now? How can you help them get there? Dig into their pain, understand what problem are they having that brings them to your table to begin with? And what does that mean to them if you're able to solve that problem? When you've got all that information, there is no challenge overcoming that pricing objection whatsoever.
Yeah, and I know you're trying to wrap this up, but like just to add to that is like I don't traditionally see myself as a salesperson. And I've gone through, I've been doing what I've been doing for a very, very long time, so of course I have to do sales. But one of the things that's helped me very recently, and it's just because I've done all this other work to allow me to do this, is that I don't even think about the sale anymore. Like when
Right.
I'm meeting with a client, like I don't, it like doesn't even matter to me.
Hmm.
Like, so like I completely eliminate that and I just try to focus on what is the problem that they're like, what's going on with them? Like, what's the problem? Like their previous vendor was terrible. Like they had all kinds of problems there. Plus it's the goals, what they're trying to achieve, like all of that stuff. And I take it in and I listen and, I just say, listen, you know, we can solve that problem. This is what we do. This is how we do it. And if you want to work with us, great. We'll help you. If you don't, then you're going to continue to have your problem. You're going to have to keep looking for a solution, and you know, life is not going to get better for you until you make that decision. So I go into it with that frame of mind, and it just takes off the pressure on me because I'm not thinking about the sale part, and then invariably it's a more successful approach. It seems it's been working better, and
Hmm.
I'm less anxious about it, and it's more of just matter of fact type stuff, and it's just more natural and genuine conversation. And I think it's more of a human to human type of thing, and it's hard to get to that point. But I think the whole purpose of this, our call today, is really figuring out what you need to do in order to get the confidence to be able to go in there like that into that sales call,
Hmm.
or the
Hmm.
discovery call. It's not even a sales call. I just see it as a discovery call.
Yeah.
It can end up being a sales call. You might need to have multiple discovery calls before it can become a sales call. But that to me is the way, to go about it. Like, what is holding you back from having that confidence? What are the steps that you need to take in order to have that confidence so that you can
Hmm.
go in there and do that?
I think that's a great point to wrap us up
Yeah.
because while you don't see yourself as a salesperson, you're a business owner. Accounting firm owners see themselves as accountants. They don't see themselves oftentimes as salespeople. But when you're a business owner, you are a salesperson. But if you remove that thought from your conversation and literally just have a conversation, part of that conversation really has to be just you being focused on asking the right questions. But on that
Mhm.
note, we're going to wrap for today. I think this was good. Hopefully, the takeaway from this is to really find and practice that confidence in your conversation and to dig deep and ask all of the right questions. If you do those two things and deliver the value, be confident in the value you can deliver, you're going to be able to overcome the pricing objection every single time. So with that,
Absolutely.
I hope you all will join us next time. I hope you got some value from this episode, and we look forward to talking to you next week.